Is there evidence for life after death? Atheists believe that death is the cessation of being. In their view, humans are merely bodies and brains. They reject metaphysical realities such as the soul a priori, in other words, prior to examination. But there are convincing reasons to believe that humans have an immaterial aspect to their being, an immaterial aspect that transcends the material and thus can continue to exist after death. Christian philosopher J.P. Moreland advances several sound arguments for the existence of the immaterial soul. First, using logic, we can demonstrate that the mind is not identical to the brain by proving that the mind and brain have different properties. Says Moreland, the subjective texture of our conscious mental experiences, the feeling of pain, the experience of sound, the awareness of color, is different from anything that is simply physical. If the world were only made of matter, the subjective aspects of consciousness would not exist. But they do exist, so there must be more to the world than matter. An obvious example is color. A moment's reflection is enough to convince thinking people, no matter where they are, that the experience of color involves more than a mere wavelength of light. Furthermore, from a legal perspective, if human beings were merely material, they could not be held accountable this year for a crime committed last year. Why? Because identity would change over time. Every day we lose multiplied millions of microscopic particles. In fact, every 7 years or so, virtually every part of our material anatomy changes apart from, of course, aspects of our neurological system. Therefore, from a purely material perspective, the person who previously committed a crime is presently not the same person. But of course, a criminal who attempts to use this line of reasoning as a defense wouldn't get very far. Legally and intuitively, we recognize a sameness of soul that establishes personal identity over time. Finally, libertarian freedom, or freedom of the will, presupposes that we are more than mere material robots. If I am merely material, my choices are not a function of such factors as genetic makeup and brain chemistry, and my decisions are not really free. They're fatalistically determined. The implications of such a notion are profound. In a worldview that embraces fatalistic determinism, I can't be held morally accountable for my actions. Why? Because reward and punishment make sense only if we have freedom of the will. While the logical, legal, and libertarian freedom arguments are convincing in and of themselves, an even more powerful and persuasive argument demonstrates the reality of life beyond the grave. That argument flows from the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The best minds of ancient and modern times have demonstrated beyond the shadow of a doubt that Christ's physical trauma was fatal, that the empty tomb is one of the best attested facts of ancient history, that Christ's followers experienced on several occasions tangible post-resurrection appearances of Christ, and that, within weeks of the resurrection, not just one, but an entire community of at least 10,000 Jews experienced such an incredible transformation that they willingly gave up sociological and theological traditions that had given them their national identity. Through the resurrection, Christ not only demonstrated that he does not stand in a line of peers with Abraham or Buddha or Confucius, but also provided compelling evidence for life after death.